Hello, Legal Shield family. This is your servant CEO, Jeff Bell, and it's time for 5 Minutes Strong. Today, I would like to speak about this lapel pin, the pin that we wear, Lady of Justice, and talk a little bit about the symbol of the Lady of Justice and why we wear it. You know, most of us know that when you see a statue of a blindfolded woman holding a sword or a scroll in one hand, and then usually the scales of justice in the other, that they're looking at the aspirational symbol of justice. But where did that symbol come from? Why are we aspiring to it as a people? And why do we need to have her presence? And just what is the meaning of her, a woman? And why is she elevated above us? And why is she firmly holding a sword? Why is she holding the scales as well? The symbol of justice began really centuries ago, and it continues to be our link between the natural law and the rational law. It incorporates the culture of the divine, the inherent right of the individual, and the culture of civil society, and the responsibilities of people and law. She is generally elevated as the intermediary between divine justice and human justice. She represents the highest standard of virtues of humanity. She carries the scale, a sword, and she is often blindfolded. But let's explore why. Why is it? Well, just to take a step back, the modern image of justice that many of us know today, including the one that is at our headquarters in Ada, Oklahoma, on the reflective pond, and even the one that we have as our lapel pin, it's based upon the Roman goddess Justitia, almost always draped in a flowing robe, mature but not old. She symbolizes the fair and equal administration of the law, without corruption, without air of vice, without prejudice, and without favor. Lady Justice is holding a sword as a representation of the power and strength of justice, and oftentimes the punishment that must go along with it. She also is holding a scale, which represents the balance and fairness of justice. A third symbol of the statue is that she is often blindfolded, which represents the objectivity in the implementation of justice. Quite frankly, if you go back to Greco-Roman times, Thermus as well as Justitia were actually able to see the future. And sometimes you'll see a Lady Justice without the blindfold, but it just continues to help us understand that they can see the truth without corruption or with bias. When we think about the scales of justice, they almost go back even further to Egyptian times, where the god Anubis was inevitably and invariably depicted with a set of scales to weigh a deceased person's soul against the feather of truth. Anubis was the protector of the realm of the afterlife. The modern interpretation filters through the Enlightenment's focus on reason, as Lady Justice weighs the factors of a case to render a verdict. The scales imply a mechanistic, rational process. Too much weight, evidence, on one side or the other will cause the scales to tip in favor of either innocence or guilt. Lady Justice often carries this sword in the other hand, and the sword is that historical symbol of authority wielded by kings, by emperors, and by generals, and it is therefore one of the earliest symbols of justice, as the power of a monarch and the delivery with one stroke of the sword of that justice. Additionally, the sword has an esteemed place in ceremony even today, as people who are knighted are touched by a sword. Lady Justice's sword advances the concept that justice can be swift and will be final. The blindfold that she wears, we've said, it symbolizes that philosophy that justice should be rendered without passion or prejudice. Considering only the facts that are in her scale, Lady Justice does not bother with letting emotional impressions of the accused enter into the implicit equation. All are fair before the facts of the case and the judgment of justice. Not all depictions of Lady Justice include the blindfold, as I said, because, again, symbolically, she's supposed to be able to see without prejudice. But the blindfold is a beautiful and powerful symbol of her equality in approach without bias. We champion justice, quite frankly, for a very important reason. We wish to live free as equal citizens under the law. Well, what does it mean to be free? Well, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, he once addressed the United Nations speaking on the 4 freedoms that every person has. The freedom of religion, the freedom from want, the freedom from fear, and the freedom of speech. These freedoms go far beyond physical freedoms. With freedom, I will say, also comes responsibility to use your freedom with judgment. Just because it can be done does not mean it's right. If freedom is taken from one, we must remember it is taken from all. So our fight for freedom and justice must be waged together. The fight for justice is also to punish those who would remove any or all of our freedoms. So when you wear the pin, you are a champion of both freedom and justice. Wear it proudly and be thankful when people ask you what it stands for. That gives you permission to share with them our vision and our mission, and to invite them to join us on our crusade. That's 5 minutes strong on Lady Justice that we wear every day. And my name is Jeff Bell, and I am just getting started, because we are Legal Shield, and truly we believe that the best is yet to come.